Greetings and welcome to the Emergence Speaker Series. I'm your host, Marina Ormes, and we are here chatting with some wonderful guests about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th, 2026. We're here to help you navigate the changing times and work with this energy to shape the future in the best possible ways. More details about this series are available at transformationalastrology.com. You can sign up for a free account and get early access to each speaker's video. So, transformationalastrology.com, and you'll be notified of each new speaker and get early access to each video. I'm so excited to welcome our next speaker in this series, Sarah El Harar.
Yeah.
Sarah is a consulting astrologer from Montreal, Canada, who got her nickname Astro Auntie from her clients and students as a nod to her straightforward, supportive style of teaching. She's taught hundreds of astrologers how to master aspects, transits, and advanced techniques in her popular workshops. Find out more on her website, astroauntie.com. Welcome.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We are so excited to hear what you have to say, and I know that you've been looking at the sacred geometry of this transit. So why don't we start there and tell me what you're first of all what you're noticing and what is kind of exciting about this to you.
Yeah, I think part of the wonderment of astrologers, like the way we look at the sky, is that we love to see shapes. And I'm not sure if people who don't study astrology are so aware of our fascination with geometry and shapes in the sky. And for astrologers, there's no better thing than a closed triangle, a closed square, a rectangle. We love when the positions of planets in the sky create a shape, and we understand these shapes as closed loops of energy that intensify, magnify an energy, and planets working together or against one another, energies either vibrating in harmonious ways or in dissonance a little bit. And it's
Mhm.
actually really similar to music notes.
Yeah.
These patterns, these frequencies, and the way that they vibrate together. So our fascination with geometry as astrologers is endless. And
Yeah.
this year in the sky, there is this most potent, most beautiful triangle. And
Mhm.
like it may seem silly that to be like obsessed with just a small triangle, but it carries a lot of meaning, a lot of beauty. It's extremely rare.
Mhm.
It's extremely rare where it is, in the place of the sky where it is, with the planets that it has. And that geometry is momentous and creates a frequency that is completely outstanding, unusual, and remarkable. So
Mhm.
I've been transfixed with looking at this and trying to peel away the layers of what that can mean, finding it through history, the rarity thereof, how it's never been quite like this
Mhm.
before, how this one is really very special for so many reasons. And there's so many layers that actually, when we were talking about what we were going to talk about, we knew that we can't cover the magnitude of the precision of that triangle. But just for anyone who's a little bit familiar with the idea of sacred geometry, is that these shapes each carry a frequency, and that the triangle is a spiritual master in a way. The triangle is a spiritual teacher in and of itself, the shape,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
it's not a line where there's a polarity, that there's a third point that mediates the polarity, that there is the Trinity. What is Holy Trinity? What does that mean when three come together? What the triangle represents just in a spiritual, esoteric, and multi, I want to say modality, like any, anything kind of like goes towards this shape, So yes, obsessed with it.
Yeah, and right. I mean, astrologers are fascinated with these energies. So it's not only a triangle, but why don't you dive in a little bit more about what's special about this triangle and the points that are involved in it?
Yeah. So yes, so there's many shapes of triangles, of course, like we know them from geometry class. There's many shapes of triangles. There's many shapes of triangles in astrology. This one is called a mini grand trine, a minor grand trine, a a triangle of talent, the talent triangle, the magic triangle. It has many names. It's sometimes overlooked. It's not spoken of a lot, but it's actually probably the most beneficial in the way that it's not just ease and flow, it also has, so it's in a geometry, it's called an isosceles. Do I say it right?
Yes.
Isosceles triangle, where there are two sides that are shorter and one that is longer. It's in astrology 60 and 60 degrees, and another one at 120 to make the total of 360. So it has one longer side and two shorter ones that reach at the top. And so it's composed of two sextiles and a trine. These are all benefic aspects. The sextiles are 60 degrees apart, and they represent a sort of stimulated attraction. There is stimulation, there is a curiosity, there is an interest by complementarity of element. And then the trine, which brings two planets in the same element, is more of an ease and a flow and a natural elegance, maybe, to it. And so together, there's that mix between natural flow, excited and curious energy. It's really an energy of creativity, of harmony, and um, and it's very fertile. So it carries this energy of fertility, of possibility, of something being created, of something magical, something beautiful, and layered. Yeah, do you?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's some of the same things I've been thinking about and observing. And as we're talking in this series about the Saturn Neptune conjunction, these two outer planets coming together for their joining in this triangle and kind of as the midpoint, right? And what would you call that point? It's
The
yeah,
apex or
yeah,
the
yeah, the
midpoint,
apex.
definitely. It
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
midpoint, and it's extremely rare for Saturn and Neptune to be at the midpoint. So yeah, so the shape itself is gorgeous, is beneficial, is layered, is stimulating and creative, but also these three planets, the four,
Mhm.
three plus one,
Yes.
the three plus one planets that it includes. So we have the outermost planets, the four outermost planets of the solar system: Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, who are together in this formation. And so, by their nature, the outer planets represent energy that is maybe even more dense, powerful, loud, than the inner planets that move very fast. And so this triangle formation is slow, powerful, and dense, and it's magnified by the Saturn-Neptune conjunction being at the tip top. So we have the longer side, the too short side, and the apex, that tip top point, is where Saturn and Neptune are meeting. And so that's extremely rare. Those three other planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are in a ball game of their own in astrology. The outer planets, these three outers, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, they're outliers. They have rules that are particular to them. They're extremely slow moving. And so they represent generational, collective, worldwide energy. And so, in that sense, they are even more heavy and dense,
Right,
right?
because the three that you're talking about, the three outermost, are in fact in this triangle for several years. And Saturn joining up with Neptune lasts for a couple of years
Exactly.
in and out. But yeah, big picture, not just and we're going to talk about right about like how rare this really is, but also really like you're saying, looking at how this is impacting an entire it's impacting our history, it's impacting generations that are born now, generations that were born before, generations that will be born. So it's really huge in terms of our understanding sort of our evolution and our history and how we're moving through
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that Louise Eddington covered the rarity of Saturn and Neptune meeting at the 0 point of Aries, and that extreme like historical momentous moment of just these two planets, right?
that.
Meeting at that point. But now if we take in consideration the fact that these two planets are meeting at that point as the tip of that triangle. Which triangle? The one of the three outermost planets, right? That the rarity of that, I've gone through, I mean, I've tried and even tried to calculate 34,000 years. I'm like, okay, we're predating humanity as we know it, actually. For that to have happened in this way, that Saturn and Neptune were conjunct at the midpoint of a higher octave minor grand trine, right? That predates society as we know it, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yes, we are at a tipping point historically, astrologically. And I have a lot of clients that ask me, but what does it mean? And I said, but look at your phone and look at life. And isn't this crazy? We're going through it right now, so we don't have to look much further than just looking outside to see how momentous, how kairos this moment is, how
Yeah.
important, how meaning making, how
Yeah.
impactful it is. But to be able to witness the rarity of this moment by the position and seeing the planets. So, from our perspective as astrologers, when we look at the planets, when we say when stars align, that sentence, like this is really what we're talking about.
Mm.
This is what we're talking about in that saying, when stars align. There are rare moments in the sky, and astrologers will look up and say, oh my God, what is this? The last time we had this kind of like a shock in our lifetime, I think, was by COVID, right? When we saw there was like this massive concentration of planets, it was momentous. We looked at the sky and we said, oh my God, what is this?
Right. Yeah.
And yet that COVID alignment was just a precursor of something grander, which is what's happening right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, to behold the beauty of the geometry, the fact that it is sacred geometry, that there is teaching even in the triangle itself. For me, like, there is something to go to in that. Like, what does it mean, three, not two? What is that third energy? And why Saturn and Neptune as that third energy?
Mm.
And so if we look at what these planets mean, so It's the outermost planets. They represent things that are generational, and they represent also a frequency that is higher than the human frequency. So there is an elevation that happens through these outer planets,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so Uranus elevates mind to consciousness. It's higher intelligence. It's the higher mind. Neptune elevates love to higher love. And Pluto elevates power to higher power. And so right now we have higher consciousness, higher mind, working in a team with higher love, working in a team with higher power. And the three of these energies are really like pushing us further, like through the birth canal of a new possibility for
Mm.
humanity,
Yeah.
a real elevation. And these frequencies are so electric, so, I keep on saying dense, but I feel like I'm looking for so powerful, right?
Yeah.
That it's
Yeah.
very difficult for us to be able to have the capacity to be the container to hold that frequency.
Yeah.
And so it's dysregulating in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Wow, you said so much
But
just now. No, no, I just want to like take a moment here because wow, like just that concept of the higher mind, the higher love, and the higher power, and to look at what's happening in the world and to see or to view it from this perspective that what's happening is we are being invited to step into the higher mind, the higher love, and the higher power. And to do that, we have to come to terms with where we have not been able to do that, right?
yeah,
And you're talking about the dysregulation and just how I think destabilizing and disarming it is to come in the presence with this kind of transformation and to feel what's possible. And what I'm hearing you saying is how we can step up and create that container for this transformation.
yeah, yeah. And so container, income Saturn,
Yeah.
income Saturn. So
Yeah.
what does Saturn have to do with this? What does Saturn on higher love Neptune? What is their relationship, the two of them? And of course, Saturn moves a lot faster than Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So Saturn has a relationship with Uranus. Saturn has a relationship with Pluto. Saturn has a relationship with Neptune quite regularly,
Right.
right? Is
Right.
in cycle, is in terms, but like this as part of like the crystallizing. This is what I feel like Saturn can do for this, is this crystallizing, putting systems, making it also being the bridge to Earth.
Yeah.
As Saturn, even if you think about it in astronomy, Saturn is the bridge between us and the outer planets. Saturn
Yeah.
is our last representative in a way,
Yeah.
right?
It's the last visible
It's the
planet with
last
the
visible, it's the
naked
last
eye.
close one
Yeah.
to us, and it really deals with more um, matters that are earthly in a way than those outer planets that really vibrate on some alien, whatever they're on. These
Yeah.
three
Far out.
outliers, rebels, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
with
Far
all
far
the
out and
reverence,
deep within is how I think of it. The further
right?
out you go, the deeper within.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, this micro, macro, fractal, where they work even on a cellular level rather than a a more, yeah. Um, but so yeah, so we have Saturn now coming at the apex of this triangle, connecting with Saturn, crystallizing the moment, right?
Yeah.
And giving the possibility of having a container for that and seeing the work ahead, the work that needs to be done, and seeing our duty, our responsibility to meet the moment. And there is and it's interesting for me because I do feel a sense of urgency.
Mm.
Although these are outer planets, they are so long lasting. The triangle will be in the sky until 2028, 29, right?
Hmm.
Perfect again in 27. So
Yeah.
we, in and out of orb and just moving so slowly that there's time, but at the same time, I do feel the urgency in myself and
Yeah.
in the collective. I can witness the urgency that something needs to be done
And
at
that's
this moment.
Aries.
Yes, yes, yes. The zero Aries.
That
Absolutely.
it's now. Now is the moment. This is not a waiting experience.
This is not a dress rehearsal. Moving from Pisces, the total absolute dress rehearsal.
Maybe we've had the dress rehearsal.
We've had a long, long dress rehearsal with Neptune and Pisces. And
Yeah.
now, and now, like the time is now, the moment is now, build it. And so it can, I think I'm witnessing in my clients, are you too, a sense of urgency, a sense of yeah, needing to do something, a sense of serious also.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I like to remind people that even though it feels urgent, there is time. And so it's not, you don't have to, you're not responsible personally for fixing the entire world, and you don't have to do it all in one day either. The
right.
it's really about taking those little courageous action steps over and over and over. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Taking those little action steps over and over again. 100%. I've been thinking about working with this energy. So these outer planets, they're called higher octaves, and they have a corresponding lower octave planet. And so part of my thinking when thinking of this triangle is that its vibration is so like elevated that it's hard to bring it down to earth or to understand how to make it lived, experienced, applied in our life. And so I've been thinking that these higher octaves, how they correspond to their lower octaves, and that investigating the relationship between them in our chart can be really useful to understand how we can embody or we can be in relationship with that. So that would be for me, that work would be to trace and to map the relationship between Uranus and Mercury.
Yeah.
So Uranus in the sky now and in your native chart, in your natal chart, and Mercury in your chart, and seeing how your thinking mind can adapt to the higher mind. Because actually, Mercury is the perfect vessel for Uranus's intelligence. So Uranus will disrupt everything, change everything, bother everybody, but the only one who can really get it, is Mercury.
Mm.
And Mercury needs Uranus. Without Uranus, Mercury can fall into dogma, repetition, mimetics, parroting, copying, which is a risk, right?
Yeah.
With Uranus in Gemini. But so
Yeah.
Uranus brings the conversation to like, no, okay, what's a higher mind? What is that? What is free thinking?
Mm.
What is a liberated thought? And so that's the real question. And that's a question that only Mercury can work on,
I love
right?
that.
And
Beautiful.
so, same with Neptune and Venus,
Mhm.
right? So, Neptune is this higher love, this compassion, universal love. How can Venus, which works more maybe with desire, wanting, values maybe for the self, maybe consumption, maybe love as consumption. I want you for me.
Mm.
I want this from this would feel good to me, right? How
Yeah.
can Neptune elevate that conversation? And I think that this road can be done through devotion. So, what you were saying, like the act of showing up in service to something, nourishing what you love, being devoted to what you love rather than wanting it, right?
Right.
And then
Right.
for Mars and Pluto, it's the same thing, like the power of Pluto, the transformation of Pluto can be, held in the will and the force of Mars, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
drive of Mars. So working with that link for me, linking these outers to the inners, these higher octaves to the lower octaves, that's a work that I feel is practical, kind of, is
Yeah.
my answer
Right. Beautiful.
to
Yeah.
how to receive this energy.
Yeah. And my mind is going thinking about how those inner planets are moving and what they're doing because they all were recently in Aquarius, now one by one moving into Pisces as of when we're recording this. But of course they keep moving all the time. So um, that that can give us some ideas too of how these bigger picture energies are showing up in our daily lives and in the events of it, when it feels like an entire year's worth of news is happening in one day. We can look to those inner planets to see kind of, where are these energies coming through.
Yeah. And as they moved through Aquarius, at the beginning, they met with Pluto. And so now they're entering Pisces. It's going to be chill for a minute, but eventually they'll all go into Aries and they'll meet with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, one
Right.
after the other. And then eventually they'll one after the other all move into Gemini too. And so yeah, do that complete trajectory um very soon, actually. It's
Yeah.
not going to be too long. And so this busy spring, summer that these inner planets are going to have, while the outer planets all, get into position, it's going to be pretty momentous. And yes, if we're looking on the mundane level as well, like these events are pretty on the clock at this point. We can really like track the thing where the triangle is being hit by an inner planet, a point, an eclipse, or whatever. It doesn't
Opposition and yeah, cradle.
it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
stop. It
it
doesn't
doesn't
stop. And
stop.
then
Yeah.
eventually when Jupiter just meets the whole story by entering Leo, I mean, it's almost like we're lighting a match on the thing and just like watching it all explode. And so, like, I absolutely don't want to sound fear-mongering because a lot of people think that it's either going to be horrible or that it's going to be transcendental. And
Yeah.
I think that it's neither and both and all at once, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because every time humanity goes through these birth pains, these death pains, actually, I think it's fair to say,
Yeah.
right? We come out somewhat stronger and better. And it would be being in denial to not say that we're not better when you and I, two women, are talking about astrology on whatever this magic thing is, in the future, having these conversations completely extraordinary, the level of life that we can attain right now in 2026, and also both, right?
Yeah, I agree that I don't see it this as, I mean, I think we can have that doomsday mentality is kind of part of this experience, and that like, oh my God, is everything going to be okay? Is everything going to end? Because that there's a feeling in there that things are changing. But in my mind, I don't see this at all as, like you said, either a utopia or a dystopia. It's our transformation, and it's what we are learning through this incredible process. And like you said, so fertile, so creative, so much possibility here. And so let's just take a breath and like ask, okay, what can I do with this incredible playground of changing energy?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that's really like the most important thing and that you just named is like what can I do with this? You know? Um yeah, this is where like that purpose word comes into play, right?
Totally. Yeah.
How can I receive this? How can I meet this to the best of my ability without losing my ground? How can I even maybe be useful to this situation? What do I have to contribute? Um, but I think that for me, this anchor of knowing, first of all, the awe and wonder of how precious, how special, how momentous this all is. Um, I'm not an evolutionary astrologer, and but to think that our souls like chose to come at a time like this for me is pretty remarkable. Or if my soul didn't choose it and it's totally random, well, it's still really cool. Right? Whichever way you look at it, I
Yeah.
think it's pretty cool to be here right now and to be able to witness this and to be able to think about it. What does it mean to be a part of a humanity in transition?
Yeah.
And I think that there's like both. I have grief. I think that our generation with where like we really come from another world. I have some clients who are in their Uranus return right now. And so they really come from another world. They're
Yeah.
84, 85 years old. They've seen a whole bunch of history. And the world today is completely an alien world from when they were born in the 40s,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
For us, even for us in our generation, we are witnessing the loss, the end of something that was sweet too. For me, that silence,
Mm.
the time we had in our childhood where hours would pass and you could hear the ticks of the clock. Like children don't know a beat between seconds. But if you had your childhood in the 70s, you remember that there is a time between 2 seconds and that it can be very long.
Yes.
You know, these
Yes.
excruciating
Yeah.
summer hours,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
boredom, the space to be bored. And so for me,
Mhm.
I think of like the loss of that. And I know that there is grief in our culture. There is
Mhm.
grief for what we are losing, an innocence, a organic, an analog, a slowness, even, I'm touching my fingers, like a tactile maybe
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
organic maybe
Mhm.
thing with the world, mud, worms and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of that, like I'm feeling somewhat like the grief of the loss of that, right? When we are
Mhm.
going through the birth of it. So I'm wondering, for me, there's a question about like how do we integrate? How do we really digest that? How do we make that compost it into something that's equally as fertile and beautiful, you know?
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Then that's part of the imagining and imagine, and you're just bringing in the idea of something that is meaningful to you, and that feels important. Like, I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose my connection to the earth and to time passing, and to, you know, just to maybe that can be part of your purpose, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
important to you. And that might be other people's thing, or their might be something else, but um really just staying connected to that purpose.
Yeah, and I mean it's really spoken like a Taurus Capricorn rising. You know, Taurus sun, Taurus moon. I'm gonna miss the worms and time.
Yeah.
A Capricorn rising would say such a thing, you know?
Yeah, beautiful. And I keep thinking too about how the outer planets in this triangle, when the triangle first started forming, they were in the water earth signs, or water earth.
Yeah.
And now they're moving, all three of them, in their time, to air fire. And do you have thoughts about that shift, and how this is happening kind of on that those cusps of signs? Really interesting.
I love that. Yeah, I think like thinking about that retrograde in Pisces and the grief that I just mentioned, like I think there's something like this. It's also like definitely that movement from Pisces into Aries, like the end of something and the beginning of like a death and a birth, like that birth passage
Yeah. Yeah.
at those last degrees of Pisces, I think is interesting for me. Like I said, personally, a Taurus. I'm a 26-degree sun, Taurus, 25-degree moon. So I've just been visited by Uranus for a while. So
Yeah.
I have personal joy to see Uranus go. I'm very happy for it to go in Gemini. I think Geminis will do much better than Tauruses with the passage of Uranus because that connection between Mercury and Uranus probably, you know. And so I have personal feelings about this. As an astrologer, I think there's like a real interesting thing about like the departure, yeah, from the feminine, the yin sign, where it's more feeling, where we're more like gathering information, receiving information, the earth and water signs, where fertility is maybe more inwards, it's more of a pregnancy there,
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And moving into fire and air or yang, where it's, this outer, expressive, exciting, excitable,
Mm.
that relationship for me, that relationship between Gemini and Aries, I'm a big fan of the way that they interact together, that, you know, um, they're signs that are enthusiastic, curious, optimistic, forward thinking. And so I get
Mm.
really excited about the idea of what that can bring together, the level of genius that can come from that.
Mm.
That mixed with Aquarius, like the level of intelligence, of creativity, of the speed of thought, the courage that can come from those fire and air signs that I'm a big fan of. Of course, the low road of that is that they're also being more excitable, they're more dangerous, they're a
Right.
little more volatile,
Yeah.
a little crazier.
Hmm.
So there's something a little bit to be reckoned with, but at the same time, it's exciting,
It's all about what we do with it.
literally,
Yeah. Yeah.
what we do
Oh
with
my
it.
god. Yeah. I wish we could talk all day.
We
I,
could. That's
yeah,
the
we could.
problem. That's a problem
Yeah,
astrologers have, is that if you let us talk all day about these things, we will.
we will, literally. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing these thoughts and clearly your passion. And, you have wonderful ideas, but obviously just a wonderful heart too. And so thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us and
Marina, it was
really
such a pleasure.
inspiring. Yeah.
Such a pleasure,
Mhm.
honestly. Anytime I'm invited to talk about these things that I'm so excited about, I have to take the opportunity. And I love that you're putting together all of this thought, you know, collecting all of these testimonies a little bit about this moment because it does matter and what we do with it does matter. And so
Yeah.
I love that there's such a variety of thought and that yeah, through all, it really creates a thorough big picture of all of this
Mhm.
and allows us to think of it in a big way. So thank
Mhm.
you for doing this. Thank you for
Ah,
inviting me.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's an honor, and I feel like I'm creating a container doing that Saturnian work. Yeah,
100%.
yeah, beautiful. So thank you and people can find you at astroauntie.com.
That's
And
it.
for all the rest of the interviews, go to transformationalastrology.com. They will all be, they'll have their own individual posts and pages, but I'm going to collect them all together in one place. Eventually, you'll be able to see all of them there, and you'll get advance notice if you sign up on that site. So thank you so much for being here. Anything you want to add, Sarah?
No, thank you for having me, Marina. It was really, really so fun. And I can't
Awesome.
wait to watch everybody's
Beautiful.
talks. Yeah, interviews.
All right. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye
Bye.
bye.